Welcome to Warfighter Sanctuary. Here, we talk with local veteran business owners, their military journey, civilian life, their business, and the services they offer.
I am the soldier's lost voice. Come on!
Lock it in and listen up. Here's your host, Andre Rivera.
Is this what they want?
Welcome to the Warfighter Sanctuary podcast. I'm your host, Justin Martin, and today I have with me Emilio Dominguez, the owner of the Modern Rose Café. Emilio, tell me about your cafes.
Hey, thank you so much, Justin. The Modern Rose it's a unique cafe. That was our original tagline. So when my wife and I bought this in 2019, I grew up in the restaurant business, and I saw this really beautiful concept kind of based around refurbished furniture and thrifted clothing and a little bit of tea and scones, and just this kind of interesting this organization that needed a little bit of focus, a little bit of direction. So when the opportunity came up, she wanted to stop being a stay-at-home mom. At this point in time, we bought it, and I would tell, because I was right before that I was a bar manager, beverage director. So I was friends with a lot of people in the biz, and people came to see me for in that same industry. And they would say, well, what is it? What's the Modern Rose? Is it a breakfast place? Is it a lunch place? Are you a vegan restaurant? Because they had some vegan options. And I was always nervous about answering with one of those preconceived answers, because I think once you do that, you put your concept into a box.
Yeah.
If you tell people I do a veteran podcast, it's only to that person in perpetuity, it's only going to be a veteran podcast when it might be so much more than that, and it likely is, right? So I never answered that. I was like, it's a really unique place. It's a unique concept. So finally I said, why don't I just make that the tagline, a unique cafe? Yeah. So that was our first tagline. It's a unique cafe. That was our first website because I couldn't afford to buy the modernrose.com. I was finally able to a couple of years later. Nice. And for much less money. I think they originally wanted like $5,000 for it. Oof. And I ended up picking it up for $600 or $700. So, nice. Patience pays off. So we're a unique cafe. We do have all-day brunch. So our locations that are open into the evenings serve brunch all day. We sell a lot of avocado toasts, which are very popular. We're kind of known for having the best that anyone's ever had. If you go through our thousands of reviews, most of them say something along the lines of best avocado toast I've ever had in my life, best cafe I've ever been to, best coffee shop. So we do a few things. We're all-day brunch. We have a lot of bakery, local bakery, seasonal stuff. A lot of vegan options, gluten-free options, but we're also a full locally roasted coffee shop. Our roaster's also veteran-owned. He's a Marine Corps vet. His name is Louis. Louis and his wife Maria own Calusa Coffee Roasters here in Oakland Park, Florida. Hoorah! Yeah, I gotta get him on with you. He's got a fun sense of humor, Louis. And yes, we keep it. Even so, from all the way back from the inception of where we're buying the beans, and he's getting them. He's buying them beans green from these farms, sourcing them from the farms. Everything's organic. Everything is single origin, specialty grade, shade grown. All these things I had to learn when I got into this business, but also coming from a vet. So we're vets supporting vets, up and down, vertically down the pipeline, nice. Which is great. And so we're a full locally roasted coffee shop, and also we have 50 different organic teas, 50 to 60 depending on the season. Organic teas, all loose leaf. We don't use any of the tea bags. You don't buy a tea from us, and I give you a cup with hot water and the tea bag, but actually I steep it, we time it, depending on the tea it is. We produce it and give it to you the best way possible to maintain what we call the integrity of the drink. It goes back to the mixology world. We would build cocktails, and we'd be concerned about when you ice it, when you put ice in the shaker, how long you shake it for, et cetera, to maintain what's called the integrity of the cocktail. Yeah. So I brought that same concept, that same thought process and level of care to a $4 tea that we used to do with $15 cocktails, and eventually we'll get there. We'll add in the cocktails one day.
So how many locations do you have currently?
We have 2 that are operational, and number 3 opens in a week or 2.
Very nice.
So it should be opening by the time this airs. Maybe the answer is 3.
So you have, right now we're in the Fort Lauderdale location off of Sunrise.
Yes.
And then you have a location in Deerfield, near the Intercoastal.
Yeah, we're in Deerfield Beach in the Cove area, the Cove Shopping Center. This one's in the heart of Victoria Park, right by the Galleria Mall. So we got two pretty great markets that we get to serve amazing people. They're they're similar, but they're also distinct in their own rights, each market. We were also in Delray Beach for almost 2 years. We were in the Delray Beach market. It was more of a fast service version of the Modern Rose. We had all of our drinks, but we didn't have a full kitchen. So we had to kind of filter down and boil down the menu to the best sellers, things that we could execute with the equipment package that we had. But it was great. It was a high volume, high traffic, kind of a faster pace model. So it taught me, okay, the Rose can succeed in different markets. We can succeed in different models. It's just people love this air of love that we bring to our guests.
Well, upon first walking in, because this was my first time coming here, was walking in today to set up for this. As I noticed, how eclectic the decor is, and sort of Victorian, sort of just really neat. And then the way you describe the care in which you prepare the food, the teas, and everything, it appears and definitely shows that what you're selling is more than just a little bit of food and a little bit of drink. It's an experience. 100%. And just from the decor, the ambiance, and the care in which everything is prepared, and the staff and how they handle everything, I don't know much about running a restaurant, but I've been in and out of the bar industry, playing venues and bouncing in nightclubs, and then I've also in my professional life I've taught businesses how to basically profit and stay in business and run for about the past 23 years or so.
Nice.
And even in the electronics industry, the car stereo and audio home electronics industry I was in, it was, what are you doing? You're not just selling a piece of stereo. You're selling an experience for somebody either in their car or in their home, for them to immerse themselves in.
Totally. That's, I think, our industry, the restaurant industry, might be probably the most subjected and most dependent on serving an experience. And selling. Like I tell people, we're not selling. We sell, technically speaking, coffee, tea, avocado toast, egg sandwiches, all that stuff. But we could be selling phones, electronics, cars, tables. The point, what we're doing is we are the intermediary. We are the human interaction in that transaction. That's why the restaurant exists. If not, Uber Eats is huge. For you, in your industry, Amazon is huge. If you didn't want an experience, you would go on Amazon or a competitor and scroll, click, deliver, forget about it, right? But if you're going to talk to somebody about it and you're going to go somewhere and spend your time, which we all are, I think, increasingly aware of how acute and how limited our time is, and it's linear, then I think what any industry needs to focus on is the human experience and caring. Especially when what we're building in this concept is this aesthetic. There's so many. I see a lot of places that do maybe something similar. A lot of places that do like the real floral kind of concept, but then you go and you have the product and it falls flat. Like, oh, okay, like it's a coffee shop. It's a standard run-of-the-mill coffee shop, and it was great for that one time to take pictures for Instagram, TikTok, whatever. But you don't really want to go back. Here's the opposite. I want to, in anything I do, I want to under-promise and over-deliver. So you come in expecting, okay, maybe it's just a cool coffee shop, but then you eat the food and the drinks and you're like, wow, like this could be in a plain room, a minimalist room with nothing in it. The food and the drinks on their own stand tall, and the service stands tall, and then the build out too. So that's, I think, what's led to us being able to scale in a pretty short period of time, opening at the beginning of COVID and buying a failing business and all these things, financially failing business. It's the human interaction. And what I tell with the team, and I really hone in on it with the managers, is that, again, it's an experience. So for me, the experience begins when you decide to come to the Modern Rose. That could be a week ahead. Maybe this is 45 minutes from you. You found us on Instagram, some reel went viral, and you're like, I gotta go to this place. So right then, when you decide and you tell your significant other, hey, we're gonna go to the Modern Rose next Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's when your experience begins. And from that moment until you walk in the door, all that's outside of my control. Maybe you have a bad week. Maybe you have a fight with your partner. Maybe your dog dies. Maybe you get into a car accident. I don't know. Hopefully none of those things happen to you.
Yeah.
But those will all impact your experience. You think, okay, I'm going to take 95 there and it's going to take 10 minutes. And then it takes you a half hour, right? All those things will impact how you walk into that door and what frame of mind you walk in. So what we can control is when you walk through that door, it better execute. And that's what the team focuses on, is I mean, we're cognizant of everything from the temperature, the smell, the volume of the music, how the pillows are positioned, if they're plumped, fluffed, if they're in the right position. I mean, everything. We're looking at every minute detail. And that probably brings in some of that military, like looking at every detail. You know, even my wife this morning said something to me about, I forget what it was, but it was something very small that I noticed. And she was like, well, it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, well, and we were discussing this, the conversation. I said, well, you got to imagine in the military, something that seemingly doesn't matter could mean life or death. So It matters. You know, so now, thankfully, my decisions they're not life or death decisions anymore. That's why I live pretty happily. But the details matter still. The importance of that will never leave my brain and how I function professionally and personally, you know?
Well, that's one of the things we talk about a lot with in Veteranette, which sponsors the Warfighter Sanctuary podcast, is that when you hire a veteran, things that you're going to get that you maybe don't expect or haven't gotten from other people that you've hired in the past is an attention to detail that is above and beyond what most people would offer. You're going to be, prompt, integrity, and a lot of times people that have served in the military are used to staying and working through a job through the most uncomfortable of circumstances there possibly is. Yeah. So no matter how bad it sucks, you're going to stick through it and you're going to get the job done, or how high stress it is. And you're going to make sure that you do the best job possible. And
completely.
One thing as you were talking that I wanted to kind of reiterate is that, you know, having a pretty picture and a nice backdrop is great, but without substance, it's nothing. You know, it's like, you're dating a girl that's, beautiful, but inside there's emotionally and mentally, there's just nothing going on. And it kind of ruins the experience if there's no substance.
Totally ruins the experience.
So,
totally. Like having a car, right? You buy a beautiful car, it looks great. And then it's got an engine from 1982, 4-cylinder, no spark plugs, it doesn't turn on. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Look at it? Is it a museum piece or do you want to use it, And I couldn't agree with you more. It's, I think that's what life's about, right? Is substance, what's real, what's genuine. I think that's what we care about often as veterans, I think, is what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Is it fulfilling? What's my purpose? How am I contributing to something bigger than myself? I think that's pretty much why most of us joined, is especially this era of veterans, is you join to join something bigger than you, to do your part, to give back, all those things. And when you get out, it's very hard to find that. I totally get it. I was very fortunate that I didn't really find my way, but I didn't feel like I was lost. I was just like, I know I'm on this journey. I'll get there, and I was young. I got out at 24. I joined at 18. So I did my 6 years. I got out as a staff sergeant. I had a great experience, and all that stuff, but it was good to just keep going, keep leaving the doors open, keep making connections, keep talking to people, keep trying things, saying yes, taking chances, and again, everyone's situation is different. It might not be that easy for some people. Maybe you have obligations, you have children, and I have 2 kids now, another one on the way. So I understand that my life is different. I can't jump at all the same opportunities. I have to be a little bit more selective. But if we, I think it's what we're all searching for is that who am I in this world? Not just who am I, me as a person, you as Justin, me as Emilio, or me as a vet, you as a vet, but in this society that we live in, this community we live in, that we serve in, that we operate in, what am I doing? That's where I think a lot of the difficulties are coming, and the stats we hear about with veterans not integrating and struggling and all that. I think it comes from that. Is what's our purpose? Yeah. Once you serve in the military, few things compare to that.
Yeah. Well, you said it. I mean, and that's the thing when you're in, and this has been an ongoing theme that we've talked about with, and every guest we've interviewed has echoed the same sentiment, is that when you're in, you have purpose. But one of the things that you got that you didn't realize you were going to get and didn't realize how important it was going to be before you signed the papers and went is tribe. It became when you were in, all the idealism went out the window.
Yeah.
And now it was about the boys you served with. It was about your fellow soldier, Marine, airman. That's what it all became about. And you guys were all, even if you didn't like each other that much, you still worked together. You still had to get a job done.
Yeah.
And even if there wasn't that great connection, there was a trust. And when things got serious, there was that support.
100%.
And that's what you mentioned with, when you get out, you can be a little lost because that's all gone. Now you found your purpose, and you do this, and you set you had this opportunity to set out on your own and do this and create your own identity. But at the end of the day, it was for your family.
Yeah.
And that's your purpose.
Yes.
So, and I really got that impression from, the first time we talked, when we first met up to go over the podcast and how the interview was going to go.
Yeah.
And, and then you were fortunate because you mentioned several other veterans that you had, been in contact with that have different organizations, and you were able to find a little bit of tribe here too. So
totally.
that's great and amazing.
I've been fortunate to build my tribe around the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then through building this business, this organization that we have, we've been able to spider that out a little bit and really just kind of set down some roots socially.
Mm-hmm.
We have our people, and some of them are vets and some aren't, and that's great. It's diverse, it's real, it's pretty representative of civilian life. Some of us are vets, some aren't. I can have different conversations with the veterans than I can have with the civilians, and vice versa. And it's been great. But that purpose, when I got out, I thought I went to college. I thought I got hired as a cop. I was applying to be a cop. Most of my family, the men in my family on my mother's side, they were police officers and veterans. Mm-hmm. And I always thought I would like the job, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to go to school for. I like business, but I didn't want to go for business administration. Mm-hmm. I know it's one of the most underutilized degrees. Most people in that degree get it and then don't work in that field. I think 5 years down the line, it's 72% don't work in that industry. So okay, I don't want to spend money on it if I'm not going to use it pointedly. So I applied to be a cop, and I got hired on 2 departments up in Connecticut, where I'm from. I got accepted, I should say. And then my buddy and I that also served with me, the plan was that we applied to all the same departments. Mm-hmm. And it was okay, whatever we both got onto, we were both going to decide together and join together. So serve together in the police force and all that. Well, the only one that I didn't apply for that he did, because I didn't want to serve with them, was the state police, the Connecticut State Police. He got hired and he took the position. And it's a great gig. I don't blame him. But when he did that, I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to be a cop. So I want to be a cop with him. That was my boy, And we're still super close friends to this day. So I said, let me just go to college. And I ended up going to school for international business. Anyway, long story short, I decided I really fell in love with like finance and the hedge fund industry and all that stuff, and investment banking, and understanding how money moves the world in a lot of ways, and politics and all that. So I thought I was going to work on Wall Street. I got an internship at Goldman. I got accepted into their VIP program. It's called Veterans Integration Program. That's their internship program is modified versus a traditional student because of the veteran status and all that. And but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So an opportunity came. That was up in school in Connecticut, and an opportunity came up to start a construction business in South Florida, where I had grown up. And I was like, I'll leave. I left with 1 semester left in school. Mm-hmm. I was like, let me come do this. And at this point, my wife and I were together. She was pregnant with our first baby. I left with student loans, without a degree. I didn't have a place to live. I lived in my construction office. The company I worked for, the owner was going to partner with me to start our business. So he's like, look, I can give you like a room. There was a room smaller than this room that she and I lived in while she was pregnant. We had a dresser, a bed, and that's it, and a TV. We had a dresser, a bed, and a TV. That was all donated. Everything was donated to us. From some old friends I had. Hey, I'm moving back. We don't have anything. We have no money. I have debt. And we didn't have a shower in that office.
Wow.
We had to share a bathroom with all the construction workers. That was my pregnant wife. She's a trooper. She made it through, no complaints, never. And we worked our way up, one rung at a time. Really slowly, kind of clawing at it. We were on food stamps. It was a journey. Yeah. And that was, and then the business didn't pan out. He had health issues. He ended up kind of pretty much semi-retiring. And it was like, hey, we can't do this business. So now I was like, okay, now what do I do? I didn't finish my degree. and I'm not making money and I have all this debt. So I ended up back in the restaurant business. I grew up in this business, and it's a lot of people in life in different parts of their journey of life fall back on it. Some do it while they're in school, some do it in between jobs, some do it for a career because they love it, and I get it. So I became a bartender, then became a bar manager, and became a beverage director with a little bit of a finance background. I was able to, utilize that skill set, and then the opportunity came to buy this, and then here we are. And really, the education in finance and how that all works, and the access to liquidity and leveraging positions and stuff like that has really been, I think, pivotal in our ability to scale, for sure. This business is really infamous for a few things. One of them being business owners that create something beautiful and valuable and real and authentic, but because of that, they want to just control the whole thing, and you can't be everywhere at once.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nothing wrong with that. If that's where you want to be with it, that's an awesome thing too. There's a lot of, arguably more value in that, depending on where you are in life and what you want. But I'm young and I have kids, and I think I'll find more fulfillment at the end of my career looking back if I was able to scale and build an organization where many people were successful in it, many people made a lot of money. The name brand carries weight in multiple places around the world. That to me will just feel more like success in my definition of it professionally. So that's what we're doing with the Modern Rose. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So throughout my career and trying to coach people through running their businesses, it's one of the big things I've noticed is that a lot of people will make themselves the face of the business, and they can't disconnect. It's too reliant on them.
You can't.
And there's something to be said about, nobody's going to care as much as you unless you find some really exceptional people.
It's hard.
And it really is. But at the same time, you've got to hold your staff accountable, and you've got to have some trust, and you've got to give them some rope, and you've got to coach them up so that they grow, and treat them well enough and pay them well enough so that they do have some loyalty. And I've heard this over and over from business owners. Oh, why am I going to spend all that time trying to train somebody when they could just leave? Because first of all, for you to get somebody who's a quality worker, who's going to take pride in their job, and then you're going to train them up, if you think that they're not going to have that thing in them that says, I'm going to try to advance myself, well, if they don't have that, they're not going to be a good employee, first of all. So it's a self-defeating prophecy right there.
I was just that's the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, was self-defeating.
Yeah.
That mindset is, it's unfortunate, that mindset, because it really hinders growth from some amazing things, and prevents more people from experiencing this great thing that you've developed,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a product or a service or a business, whatever that is. But it's self-defeating, and you have to trust people. You have to delegate a little bit. The term I use with my team a lot, especially the managers, is I trust your intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and I trust your discretion.
Yeah.
So I work with them, and I make sure, and then once I think that they're ready, so listen, you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. I'd rather them be in that position, make the mistakes, coach them through it, guide them, discuss it with them, and then they so rarely make a mistake twice, because they know I'm not breathing down their backs.
Yeah.
And another thing this industry is famous for is rude restaurant owners that like to yell and scream and lead that way. And I don't do that. Mm-hmm. So, if it's not a right fit, I don't scream and yell at you. I just say, hey, this isn't the right fit. Mm-hmm. I could be a reference for you, but this isn't, we don't work together well. This concept, if that's the case. But otherwise, it's like, let's lead from the front. Let's lead with compassion. Let's lead with integrity, with hard work. Let's give back. Let's ask them what they need. I've been very generous in my time as a business owner. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, 99% of the people that I've worked with have been very generous back in return without having to force it.
Yeah.
So that's why we have this great team, and it's a growing team, and it's a big team, and it's an intelligent team. I have people on my team with MBAs. We have selling what looks from the outside looking in, looks like a coffee and tea shop. Mm-hmm. But really what we're building is an organization that is able to open more of these unique cafes when people want them, when people need them. And it's been great. We've been very blessed, and we're excited, and we're young and hungry, and still have that same feeling like when I went to boot camp of I still wake up nervous some days and excited some days and hungry some days. And, and to some people, especially the vets, I'm like, look, this feels like war to me. This is like, it's win or die. If we don't succeed, my kids don't eat. That to me is the equivalent of death. My kids don't have a life. They don't have to live in mansions, drive Rolls Royces, but they have to eat, go to decent schools, have clothes, I've been there where we didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So it's not that far from a reality for me where it doesn't still scare me and wake me up in the morning. So we have all of this, but it's, I'm still waking up like the Wrens do, because it is.
Now, of the many lessons you've learned as a business owner, I'm curious about this one, and I don't think we've talked about this on any of the other episodes yet with some of the business owners because you've got multiple employees. And when I started working and leading people in different stores and in different capacities as a sales manager and stuff like that, one of the things that I found was difficult was the transition from dealing with veterans or people that were in the military to civilians, where it was never, I never came across as mean. I was never yelling or any of that stuff, but it was short, direct, and to the point. Yeah. I'm going to tell you to do this. This is the expectation. It needs to get done. And there's no, hey, thanks, please, could you, when you get a chance. And what lessons did you have to learn with dealing with people in a different way to accomplish your mission?
So I'll say that I was fortunate that I ended up in this industry because my time in the restaurant industry predates my time in the military, even though I was raised around a bunch of the males in my family that were military cops, and that same approach of, there's all love, but it's direct and it's concise. So with that said, I've seen that since I was a kid, and I know that you have to address different people differently. You have to work with people within the confines of their own existence and their own experiences and their personalities if you want to be successful at this. If I wanted to just run it my way and say, this is my way or the highway and tight ship kind of thing, I could. I wouldn't have the same retention levels that I do. It would be harder in this industry because, again, this industry is known for a little bit of transience. Yeah. People come in between jobs, before school, after school. I can't work Sundays because, whatever the case is, right? But those aren't options in the military.
Yeah.
So I have to swallow a little bit of, I don't know if it's pride or if it's just like, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice more. I'm willing to do more to get the mission accomplished. I know that's not the case here with everyone.
Yeah.
So you build that into the expectations. I think it's about managing expectations. As the business owner, talking to maybe another business owner, it's managing expectations. The 21-year-old person in college who's never been overseas, never been through boot camp, never been dealt with life or death issues maybe on a recurring basis, they're not going to perceive things the same way that we're going to. So you can either understand that and work with that, or try to just, hold a leash on everything. And it's just, you can do it for a short period of time, but it's exhausting and it's not sustainable. So again, it wasn't a huge hurdle for me to overcome because I worked in the restaurant business. I catered while I was in college. I worked for the UN. I worked for the Prime Minister of Turkey. I worked for the Prime Minister of India. I worked for the CEO of 50 different Fortune 500 companies. I worked for 4-star generals, actors, athletes. I worked really high-end catering. And I was fortunate. I made good money at a young age while I was in school to kind of help pay for things and all that and live like a normal lifestyle, not eating ramen every day kind of thing. That was actually ironically after college. I had to go back to that lifestyle.
Once you took a chance and on something.
Yeah, I took that chance, and that's okay. I still take chances. I still leverage. I still, we opened, like I said, Delray Beach, and that closed. It didn't, it was profitable, but the market closed and, you're working with 26 other vendors who at all times we're all we're trying not to step on each other's toes, but we want to do our own thing. And there's a leash on from the property management. So it's a different beast. And we had to learn that, and I opened a new concept last year, a Middle Eastern inspired royal coffee concept it's called Clio Royal Coffee, purple and gold and these exotic flavors. And it's a beautiful concept. It's really cool. Definitely a passion project of mine, but we had a 6-month lease. It was a test to see if it would work. I think the business itself worked, but the location wanted more money than it was worth for us at that point in time, especially with a lot of coals in the fire, with all these modern roses going on.
Yeah.
So that closed. Right? Some people look at that as a failure. I'm excited that I have Clio ready to launch whenever I find the right location and it's at the right pace for my work schedule. We can learn and grow and take our losses and swallow our pride, but you have to take the chances, especially as an entrepreneur. You know, and there's nothing wrong. I have a lot of friends that are employees of XYZ large corporation that make exponentially more money than I make. So there's nothing wrong with being an employee, you know, just what do you love? You know, it's like the whole, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think you still got to work. There's hard days. Don't get me wrong. There's hard days. And, but there's never a day that I want to quit and give it up. I mean, for a certain number, I'll just walk away. But at the end of the day, it's sustainable if you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's still hard days, you know?
Yeah. There's never going to be days that aren't easy. You know, we talk, you know, I'm a musician and everybody thinks it's all fun and games all the time and woohoo party, we're making music. There are days when I have to learn stuff and I have to sit there for hours and it is work and I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to look at this damn guitar anymore. But then there's a payoff and a reward after that, after you put in all that work. Creating
music, which is amazing.
Yeah, and connecting with people. And to a degree, that's what you do here too, though. You connect with people. It's an experience and a connection. And one thing about that I want to touch on that you mentioned that is rare that I hear people talking this way when they're in leadership positions is that everybody is their own person, their own world, their own experiences, their own thing. And you have to figure out how, as a leader, to most effectively get the best results out of that person.
Yes.
And I always use the NFL coaching as an analogy, because you'll get these coaches that come in to a team and instead of evaluating the talent they already have and then adding a few pieces and doing a game plan and a scheme based on that, they're like, no, we're going to do it my way. And it fails and it falls apart. And it's just stupidity at its highest.
It's ego.
Exactly. And I think that's a big lesson for people that are starting businesses where they're going to have employees and they're going to be leading, is that you've got to look at your talent and figure out what the little key is to each one of them to get the best results.
That's hard. I agree. And it's very hard. And I have people on the team, managers that are phenomenal leaders, phenomenal workers, arguably harder workers than I am. And everyone has different struggles, you know, and that's probably, I'd say the most common struggle I see is of people coming up and learning how to manage is understanding that just because they have the right intentions and they're protecting the business, not everyone's going to receive the message the way you want them to receive it. That's a very hard skill set to learn. Yeah. And again, it does require to just completely dissolve yourself of your ego and look at a situation with as much objectivity as possible to say, okay, what do they need to hear? Or what are they hearing when I say this, like this? What do I need to get accomplished? What in that translation do I need to shuffle around, change? How do I look at? So instead of looking at the problem as what are they doing wrong, saying, what am I doing wrong? That's as a leader, when you know that you've given your heart, soul, your savings, your retirement, your everything, you know, your whatever it is, you've sacrificed your health. I've sacrificed all these things and more along the way to get here. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do all this. And then I have to go be nice to this person and like plead with them almost, you know, you feel like you're pleading with them, but you're not. You're being a leader. That's why this is not an easy job. It looks great and it sounds great to be the owner of XYZ, but it's a job and it's hard and it's less forgiving. And I really believe that it's pretty true often that when things go wrong, the leader is to blame, and when things go right, you have to give the team credit. Yeah. So you have to be really comfortable with yourself in the middle, being like, hey. So I do, to kind of reiterate a little bit of what you said, I'm the opposite of like trying to be the face of the business. Actually, people on the team that are trying to force me now to like come out more and be like, hey, I'm the owner of the Rose as we're trying to scale this a certain way strategically. But it goes against my desires to reduce my ego down to focus on the business. But I think that there's going to be a time for that, and that's fine when that's there. Yeah. But that's what I work on that specifically is saying, hey, it's not me. It's not the Modern Rose. Some people come in and I'll be here as just eating or drinking at a table, having a meeting, and people will think that one of our GMs is the owner. That's great. Like that to me is, when I hear that, I get so excited. I'm like, man, that is success.
Yeah.
That I'm here eating and drinking and people think somebody else is the owner. That's great. Because on top of the fact that I don't have to be here 24/7 micromanaging every little detail, that also shows me that our team is caring enough to be thought of as the owner.
Yeah.
That's
huge. That's the first thing that popped in my head.
That's why I love my team. They're phenomenal. And not only are they my team, but I tell them, even people that are brand new with us, whether it's their first job or post MBA, I'm like, listen, guys, you're on my team, so I reciprocate that. I'm on your team. You need help with something, you need help moving, you need a quick little loan, you need something. What do you need to just make sure you're good so you can focus on work and take care of the guests? Mm-hmm. So I'm their advocate, I'm their resource, their asset. So we reciprocate with the team. I think I was really impacted when I was studying business by Richard Branson's approach. Mm-hmm. I like that I don't know which one of his books it was that he said it, but that basically the boiled down version of it is that you focus on the team, your employees, they call them, the team. You focus on your team and they focus on your guests. Mm-hmm. So I take care of my team and they take care of the guests, And if I'm here, obviously I'm here for the guests. Mm-hmm. And that ties into the service aspect of the military and working as a veteran is I feel fulfilled because I'm still serving. I don't wear the government's uniform anymore. I loved when I did, and I'm proud of it. I wear my uniform so that I get to create and choose and decide and mold and shape into this little thing, into like kids, into this thing that's growing, and it's great. But I'm here to serve. You walk through those doors, if you want to buy a $2 bottle of water, or you want to spend $2,000 on catering in a private event, I'm here to serve you.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm here to serve you. So it's service. It comes back to that core of, are we here to serve or are we here to serve ourselves?
Yeah.
And in any industry it's applicable. And as a musician, you're serving the people listening to you. Mm-hmm. You're creating this to serve them, to help them, because music is therapeutic in so many ways.
Yeah.
That's always something I wish I could do. I wish I was musically inclined to create music, to paint, draw, sculpt, anything like that. I can't do any of those things. Terrible. I'm my 6-year-old is way better than me at almost all of those things. But I found my creative outlet here in small businesses, in the food and beverage industry. We can create beauty, we can create magic, we can create things that people are like, how did you do this? Mm-hmm. And it is a little bit ironic, I think, outside looking in, covered in tattoos, and I used to just care about guns and jumping out of planes, and now what we sell is this experience surrounded by flowers and love and Victorian furniture mixed with farmhouse, antique vibes. It's totally different than I expected my life to go.
So Emilio, you told us about the challenges of being a business owner and how you got into the restaurant business and what led you to opening up the Modern Rose. So tell me about your military service, because you also talked a little bit about how your service has shaped your entrepreneurial life.
Yeah, for sure. I was raised in a very patriotic family. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my grandfather, my uncles, they all served. Some of them were just retired recently. A lot of police. So, we grew up patriotic, and it was I looked forward to the day I could serve. I was excited. Yeah. I'm like, man, when is it my turn? Jumping at the gun. And I mean, even like in high school, I remember when we would get off for Veterans Day, where I lived was right next door to a nursing home. So I would walk over to the nursing home and ask the front desk if there are any veterans there without families and didn't have families. And they would want to just talk. And I got so many great, rich stories that really helped me understand the purpose of when I went to boot camp, and it was hard. And throughout the entire my time in the military, why I was doing it and what that looks like 50 years from now, if I'm lucky enough to make it that far. And it was just very rich for me. And I always wanted to do it. I was like, people thank you for your service. And for me, I'm like, thank you for paying your taxes if you pay your taxes, because I'm just getting paid to do what I love. Like I really couldn't wait to do it. So I ended up actually enlisting in the Marine Corps at 17 to be a tow gunner, and I was excited to do it. But before I went to basic, I moved back to Connecticut from Florida. And at that time, my uncle was in the Air National Guard. And he was like, dude, you have like a 98 on your ASVAB. Are you sure you want to be a tow gunner? And I'm like, yeah, hoorah, I'm going. I'm like, of course. He's like, can you just talk to the recruiter from the Air Force? Just see. That's fine. I'm always reasonable. I'm like, yeah, I'll have a conversation. And he was like, hey man, you can have any job you want. We'll give you $20,000 bonus and we'll start you off at E3. And I was like, I think I'm going to switch. so I switched. So my record says Marine Corps, but I don't ever broach that line of respect for say I was Marine because I wasn't. I never did that. But I had a great experience in the Air Force. So I did take that. I found, I wanted to be a cop. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to go security forces. There was a 2-year waiting list or a 1-year waiting list. Mm-hmm. There was then I tried being a firefighter. There was a 2-year waiting list. So then I said, okay, look, give me the longest tech school, which is like your MOS school. Give me your longest tech school that still has the bonus. And it was what was then, when I signed, it was called, I think, computer something. They ended up changing that. It's always evolving, the MOSs and the AFSEs, to cyber transport when I was in. And cyber transport was the first amalgamation of all of the different comm professions in deployed comm. So it was a little bit of SATCOM, a little bit of RF. It was networking, it was switching, telephones, it was all of that in one. So I kind of went through all of the different courses in abbreviated format. And then at the end, it was okay, how do you do this in a deployed setting? I got civilian certifications while in tech school. It was really comprehensive training. And I got pretty big job offers coming out of tech school at 19 years old in that field. It wasn't my passion. And I was advised from people within my unit, hey, look, you're young. If you start making money early, you'll never go away from it. My advice to you as a person, not as a corporate guidance or somebody who's going to get a bonus for you joining, is if you don't love it, because they had a feeling I didn't love it. If you don't love it, don't do it. Yeah. But if you want it and you love it, go make your money. Hats off to you. So I chose not to pursue a career in that field, but it was a great experience. So I ended up being cyber transport. I was a part of the inaugural class. I'm somewhere in the halls of Mississippi on a plaque. And the inaugural class of cyber transport, 3D 1X2. And it was a great experience. I loved it. I was in T shift, which means I was in class every day from 3 to midnight. So I had my schedule was modified. We PT at 8 a.m. I'd hit the gym for 2 or 3 hours. I was shredded, and then I'd eat again. I'd watch Pumping Iron. I'd do homework. I'd do a little drown proofing with my PJ friends in the pool, and then go to class all day. It was great. I loved it. I had a great time. But I was very successful. I think in looking back, I was a dorm chief, not by choice, but I was a dorm chief in basic. Then I was a rope, and I was a leader, leader amongst my airmen in Mississippi. And I do think growing up in the restaurant industry helped me excel in the military, like the beginning parts of the military. The training components of that, and then vice versa. The real time in the military and the deployments and the hurry up and wait and all of the patience teaching side of the military really helped me when I came back to the civilian life. So I think one helped the other. And then like life, you should just grow on everything and learn from the experiences. But I had a great experience. I did one deployment overseas. I was in Kuwait for 8 months or I don't know. It was the better part of a year, a little bit of time in the UAE, stopovers in Bahrain, Germany. It was cool. I got to see a little bit of the world. I fell in love with the Middle East during that trip. That's why I ended up doing Clio. 11 years later from my deployment, it still resonates with me. A lot of my friends are Middle Eastern. I love the culture. It's very similar to the Latino culture. It's very large family, communal, tight-knit, great food, a lot of music. There's a lot of similarities in the cultures. So I fell in love with it, and I had a good experience. There were some harrowing moments, and a lot of the times it was EOD that was detonating UXO from the Gulf War, but they don't let you. Sometimes they let you know, sometimes they don't. So you're sitting there, you're playing spades or something, or you're in the porta potty, and all of a sudden, boom, and every cell vibrates in your body, and you're like, oh, my helmet. You're going to run for cover, and then you just find out, oh, it's just EOD was just blowing up an old bomb they found from the 90s. I'm like, I thought I was dying today.
Thanks, guys.
So thankfully there was no really direct combat. I mean, in Kuwait in the Air Force, you're not doing, unless you're a PJ or TACP, you're not often doing direct combat. So thankfully it was none of that. I came back whole, definitely physically, 99% mentally. But there are moments where you're like, okay, I think I might die today, and that impacts your perspective, I think, on what matters. You come back from overseas, and then you're like, you hear people complaining about their shampoo isn't in stock, but they had 800 other shampoos there, and you're like, dude, pick a shampoo. I don't know. Is that really that much of a problem? That is most of our problems, most of the days, for most of us in America. That's why we're so blessed. I mean, if those are our problems, we don't really have problems. So it helps me keep a fresh perspective, which helps me approach business not sweating the small stuff. You know, like, hey, I tell the team we have small problems with easy solutions. Just focus on the solution. Was the drink wrong? We messed up. They messed up. Whatever. Just give them a new drink. Let's move on to the next person. I think it comes back to that managing expectations thing, right? Besides business, it's a life thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, hey, what do I expect out of this scenario? All right, I'm going to grocery shop. I'm going to be inconvenienced at some point. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, you know. And we all fall victim to it. It happened yesterday. I mean, I think I was getting off 95, and this happens. I mean, I will say, I do think that a lot of these minor inconveniences happen at a higher rate of pace in South Florida than in many other parts of the country, to be fair.
Yeah.
So it can build on you.
It's a little exceptional here.
Yeah, vets, non-vets, I get it. It's tough, you know, and that's why you got to be just take a deep breath and take care of yourself here, you know. But I was getting off the highway and it was yellow and it was okay. I was going to make it. And the person in front of me slowed down, stopped at yellow to make sure. And then as soon as it turned red, they ran through it. And I was like, what? If you did, you know, and I was pissed. And my wife's like, you gonna let it bother you that much? And I mean, not about like road rage mad, but I was like, you know, I was yelling to myself, like, you know, they can't hear you, right? I'm like, I know, but if they had just gone, we would have both gone. And that's what made sense. Like, why did they stop, wait for it to turn red, and then break the law and run red? We would have both made it at yellow if they had just gone, you know? And it's, at the end of the day, as soon as she said it, I'm like, yeah, I know, you're right. Like, it doesn't really matter, you know? And we both made it. It set me back, what, a minute, 2 minutes, you know?
One of the things that I repeat to myself often when it comes to dealing with other people is to keep myself calm and not bring out the ogre, and just not be an idiot and not be angry all the time and snap, is that don't assume malice when ignorance and incompetence will suffice.
Yes. I just heard this recently for the first time.
Yeah.
Like maybe yesterday or today. It's funny you say that because I've never heard it and it's so true.
Yeah. Some people don't have any ill intent. They're not evil. They're not terrible people. They're just unaware.
Yes. Yes. That's the whole thing, is unaware. And I think as vets, because we're not allowed to be unaware in so many aspects of our service, that it gets frustrating because you're like, how are you so unaware? You know? And then it's like, how are you making this much money and you're so unaware? How are you, you know, and you start comparing and that gets frustrating, and I get it. I struggle with that too. You know, and again, I do think even to me that comes back to managing expectations, right? Like managing the expectation that people are going to be as aware as you. Well, they're not always, you know, and if you let the anger control you, they own you. They own your time, right? They're owning you in that moment. And none of us want that.
That's so true.
And it's also, you know, to be fair, it's also a little undisciplined. And again, I do it too. But I think about it in hindsight. Every time I let someone own me through anger, and I'm like, man, I pride myself on being disciplined. I pride myself on all that time I did all these things. I held myself to a higher standard. And here I am letting myself devolve back to a lesser state. You know, so I think for everyone that prides themselves in being disciplined and knowing what they're capable of, you know, to use that in a positive sense, you know, not just in the holding other people accountable, but hold yourself accountable to the fact that, like I said, it's probably just ignorance or lack of situational awareness, which again isn't allowed in the military, but we're living here in the real world now.
And it just happens.
You know?
And like I don't like giving people power over me.
Yeah.
And I think people that are truly secure and that that know who they are and can project a certain air when they walk into a room, don't let people do that to them. They don't let people control their emotions that way and the outcome of every little interaction.
Oh, completely.
A story that you kind of echoed a little bit about going for things, but there was a funny outcome. There was something about an email that you sent while you were in looking for an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's just, you know, it's part of my personality is that I go for things and I have confidence that everything will be okay, you know? So yeah, I was overseas. I was in Kuwait. I was 21 going on 22. And I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. I actually grew up, my goal was to go to the Naval Academy and serve as an officer. But then I ended up joining the Air Force. It's okay. I mean, I still loved Annapolis, but I think I want to stay within the Air Force track and be a pilot. At that time, by that time, I had already started flying little Cessnas. I had flown some rotary wing aircraft. I started jumping out of planes. I really enjoyed the aviation side of this. So let me commission within this path. And so I think it'll be easier for me to go to the Air Force Academy than the Naval Academy. So what's the path of least resistance here? It's still prestigious and it's still respectable, and I'll still have pride in saying I did it. So I want to apply for the Air Force Academy. Now, I don't know if everybody knows, when you apply for the academies when you're already enlisted, you don't need the congressional nomination like a civilian does. I still got one because I wanted to make my package as robust as possible. But I thought, okay, you need 2 letters of recommendation. Okay, who's going to be the most impactful here? So I'm in the Air Force, I'm applying for the Air Force Academy, and you have the global email system. So I go, I went on Google. I was like, okay, who's the top of my chain in the National Guard, or the Air National Guard, who's the top of that chain? And it was, I don't remember who, but it was a 4-star general at the time. He was in DC, and the person above him was the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. So I'm perfect, I'll just email him. So I'm not gonna go to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force because I don't think I'll get through, but I think I'll get through to him. So I just emailed him, hey, my name is Senior Airman Dominguez. I'm currently deployed, and I couldn't say where at the time. It was Kuwait, in support of OEF. These are my accolades: distinguished graduate, blah, 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 boot camp, dorm chief, honor grad, all this stuff. I would love a letter of recommendation if you could give me the chance to talk with you or explain who I am and see if I'm a right fit. And I got a response maybe within a couple of days from a full bird colonel who, at the time, my commander of my whole unit was a light colonel, was a lieutenant colonel. So the 4-star general's assistant was a full bird, and responded back to me, hey, Senior Airman Dominguez, normally airmen don't just email the general, but I will submit it to him and see what he says. Cool. The next day, I get a call on a secure line from a forward deployed position. I was forward deployed. Kuwait was the forward deployed unit within our deployment. So I get a call from the TOC, the Tactical Operations Center. And I get a call from the TOC, and it's my commander. And he's like, hey, Dominguez. I go, yes, sir. He goes, did you email a 4-star general? And I just was like, yes, sir. And he just, so, you hear the chuckle, and he goes, Dominguez, you got balls of steel, but don't ever do that again without asking me. I go, okay. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. That's a fair response. And I always respected him, and that's why everyone respected him, because that was how he would handle things. And I go, okay, no problem, sir. And he goes, good luck. I hope you get it. Click. And I did get it. I ended up getting a letter of recommendation. I ended up getting one from General Stanley McChrystal. I met him through catering. We stayed in touch. I had a couple phone calls with him while I was downrange to his office in Alexandria, where he has a consulting firm now. So I've stayed in touch with him and his people throughout the years. So I got a recommendation from him and a 4-star general and my congressional nomination. I'm like, okay, this is a no-brainer. I got to be a shoo-in, And I did end up getting it. I didn't end up going. I had a girlfriend at the time, young love, you think you're going to marry everybody you date. And I passed on the nomination. I passed on, the appointment, whatever it is, to get in, to go to a private school up in Connecticut. And it's all good. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm with my kids, my family, my wife. I'm happy. So that's the path that my life was supposed to take. But it was apparently, it's funny. It's probably 2 years ago now. I was in our Delray Beach location at the Modern Rose, and in walks one of the guys from my unit that I haven't talked to since 2014, maybe 13. I haven't seen him in almost 10 years. And he just walks in with his wife. And I'm like, dude, and I call him out, and he's like, Dominguez, what are you doing here? And we caught up. And he was like, bro, I don't know if you know this, but I still tell the story of you emailing the general to this day to all the new guys that come in. I'm like, no way, really? He goes, yeah, I still tell everybody. He goes, it's a great example of taking your chances and doing the right thing and working hard. And I'm like, man, that's cool to know that made an impact further down the line than I ever would have expected in that moment. Just like, yeah, why not email him? What was the worst that can happen? I'm gonna get a slap on the wrist. I mean, I'm not doing anything wrong, really. I'm not hurting somebody. I'm not breaking a direct order. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just kind of skirting the edge of what's generally acceptable. So, I kind of always lived that way, pre-military, post-military, during the military. You have to take some chances. You got to push the limit a little bit. You have to be willing to be a little unconventional, a little unorthodox. And I think it pays dividends if you keep at it. If you couple that with hard work, with really being an expert at your craft, with investing in relationships and people and spending time on that, and really cultivating authentic, deep relationships, I don't think there's anything that can't be accomplished, to be honest with you. I don't see if I stay on this path, I don't see a reason why this couldn't be a publicly traded company one day. Black Rifle Coffee did it. I love that example. I'm so proud of them. We have mutual friends. We have a friend of mine is a friend of the founder, Evan. And I'm like, man, that's like, I'm just so proud to know that was a dude wearing a uniform, at one time. And he scaled and built and created a publicly traded company that's worth $1.6 billion.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. Like, dude, I can't wait. And I hope to be able to do something on the same lines, and I hope to empower other veterans to do that too. And anybody on my team, veteran or not, that wants to do it, like, let's go for it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Watching some of what happened and seeing some of there's some of those companies like Black Rifle and a few others out there that were kind of lightning in a bottle, and then but they still stayed true. Because there's other organizations that are nonprofits and stuff, and they went astray.
Unfortunately, I know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it really is unfortunate, but the overall theme for Vetronet and doing the podcast, Warfighter Sanctuary podcast, is to force multiply, just combine and help each other grow. And when we first met, I talked about I don't care if it's another nonprofit. There's no competition. I don't care if it's another business or somebody that does something similar to me, musician, whatever. One does good, we all do good. That's the mentality I have. And because along the way, I think if acts of service, if you just little acts of service, little things to help people out throughout your day, it will just exponentially grow for you in your life, and
your fulfillment, how you feel about your life. You give back and you're helping, and you're seeing everyone go up with you. It's great.
And there's one thing that I really want to point out about what you were just talking about. You ended up not going into the Air Force Academy. And you didn't end up going construction. You were interning with Goldman. You didn't finish your degree and things like that. So there are a lot of people that would be sitting here right now looking in the rearview mirror. You would just despair. Yeah. Oh my God, life didn't turn out the way I wanted to, and whatever choices you made, good or bad, could have kept you down in your own head and inhibited your progress. But you're the complete opposite end of that spectrum. And for you, I think it was more about, you tried a lot of things, and you put a lot of effort into it, and there were things that were grand, but it took you a while to find your spot.
Oh yeah. Like, what was my thing? It took me a long time. I mean, we didn't buy the Modern Rose until I was 29. I had already been out of the military for 5 years. I'd already done things professionally that I thought were going to be my thing, and they weren't. We didn't really find the business wasn't even profitable until 2 years after that. So I mean, really into my 30s, I had to move in with my mom at 29. COVID hit. I owned the Rose. I had debt. I had to pay the lease. My landlord didn't give us a break on the rent at all. He said you could have more time, but there was no discounts. Like, some people got discounts during COVID. So there were a lot of factors that continued to kind of go against me. As soon as we bought the business, 3 months later, COVID hits. Yeah. Thankfully, Florida stayed mostly open, and that's why we survived and we thrived. COVID, I don't know how it all worked out, but it panned out. And as soon as we reopened, it just like 20% month-over-month growth. But I agree that I frame it in my mind, and it's not something I have to force myself to do, it's just how I think. But I think you can, if you don't think that way organically, and you're able to self-assess and say, hey, I don't look at my L's as W's. Cool. You can tell yourself that. It's been proven. I mean, it's been proven, like through MRIs and through fMRIs, that if you tell yourself, I'm happy, like your serotonin levels go up. Yeah. Even if you don't feel happy, right? It's like that fake it till you make it thing. It's a real scientific, hormonal, emotional thing that you can create in yourself. So there are times, obviously, where I struggle, that are hard, that, I'm over leveraged. A year and a half ago, I was at the point I was over leveraged. Delray closed. I had no money. Payroll was due. I had nothing left. And all, like, literally within an hour, I had I don't know, like a 6-figure loan given to me, like offered to me. And it saved me. I fell on my knees, I cried. It was because if not, the next week it was going to close the rows. I've been that close. I mean, but I don't look at any of them as losses. And some people don't want to either be open about how close calls we are in life, you know, or they are open to it, but they look at it negatively and say these were losses. I think I've learned so much every time I do one of those things happens to me that I kind of like I smile on the face of it. I'm like, okay, like are my kids healthy? Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I mean, I love my family more than anything. If this were to burn right now, well, hopefully as long as we get out, if this were to burn down to ashes right now, I'd be like, oh, okay. So what are we doing tomorrow? Right, what's the first phone call? How do we get back up? That's it. Just, are we alive? Are we healthy? If you have those two things, you kind of just got to keep going. It's not easy. I get it.
And there's a certain sort of resiliency in the mindset, or at least that I can pick up in your mindset, and a lot of other vets that I've met. Okay, something happened, and it's devastating, and it just happened to me fairly recently, but I had to sit back and just assess it and go, and I was lucky that tribe was there. It's funny that I'm doing this work with VeteranNet and this podcast to kind of create that support community with veterans and just lend a helping hand here and there. It doesn't have to be anything huge. And I ended up needing it, and it came through, but I still had to sit back, with that little bit of help and go, okay, I've gotten through worse.
Yes.
It's not the end. I've rebuilt myself before. It sucks, but I can do it again if I have to. If you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. And you might have to, you might not. It's okay though.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really okay. You're going to be good, Yeah. And then the next time you do it, you're so much more well-versed and so much more able to avoid the same pitfalls, able to navigate with a different level of nuance. I think it's just, I think there's so much beauty in that failure, those quote unquote failures, that it's leverage, right? Leverage them to push yourself to the next rung, the next level, Now we're about to open, we're about to open our third one in a couple weeks, maybe next week if I can pull it off, maybe next week. And now we're looking for our fourth one already. Yeah. We're ready to roll with the fourth, and we're looking at 3 or 4 locations, and by the end of this year we'll have 4. So from this little 600 square foot, losing $5,000 a month concept to our 4th location, and I have people in Michigan who want to franchise, people in Buffalo, New York, people in California, people internationally, somebody in Saudi Arabia wants to open one. People that really want to that love this concept and love, I think I'm grateful that I think a part of it is through, they want to partner with my style of leadership and with my team, that they know, okay, we're going to execute wherever it goes. But this, I'm living my dream, really. Yeah. From somebody who wants to study international business to have the chance to maybe open in the Middle East or open in London, and that be a realistic conversation. That's international business. Yeah, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. That was my favorite classes in college were the case study classes where we're, so the professor will say, okay, hey, we're gonna, I want you to say you're gonna open a shoe factory in Malaysia. It's a brownfield expansion. Do it, right? And you have to go and here are the resources you have. Build me this deck, or what is the first step? How are you going to do it? What about the culture is going to impact how you choose to operate? Where are you going to spend the money? Are you going to hire locally? Are you going to import talent? All this stuff, you have to think about all these things. And I loved it. I love the different cultures. I love the diversity of the world. I love the diversity of America. I love being American. I'm so grateful that we were born here. My wife was born and raised in Mexico. And you see the differences, and she sees, and she's very aware, and she's very grateful to be here, and that our kids get to be born and raised here, and she loves her country and she loves her culture, and she's very proud of it. Don't get me wrong, but she understands the value and the fortunateness of being born and raised here, and how much further ahead in life we start out than so many other countries. It's not perfect. None of them are. The ones and the countries that throw shade at us are definitely not perfect themselves. So. But all things compared and all things said, I think we're pretty lucky being born here. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to put that uniform on. And to this day, I still have, there's days where I'm like, man, I could go in the reserves. I could do this, and I want to still serve. It's still that fire in my heart to serve. And I know that the key for me to be successful is I have to focus.
Yeah.
I got to focus on the rows and our team and our family, and then things are good. When I start going off on tangents is when my focus is pulled and I don't give 100% of myself to anything, and then nothing works.
Yeah.
And then I know why. It's my fault. I make my choices. I take my L's like everybody else. I just assess them as W's. I'm like, okay, filed in the cabinet. Don't do this again.
Yeah. It's that jack of all trades, master of none. Sometimes
sure.
if your attention's diverted to too many different ideas, too many concepts, too many different types of things, then they all suffer at some point. And I
Totally.
experience that all the time because I try to do way more than I should possibly try to do. But
it's good. I do admire that. I agree. But I admire that in people that have that. So at least I know you care and you have that fire and you want you want to push, you want more, even if it's not financially. It's not. I think for me it's not. And for most people, it's not just about I want to make more money or I want to do all this to make more, but it's more about like I want to do all this to do more, to be more productive, to contribute more to whatever that translates to you. And I honor that and I respect that in people and I admire it. And I like surrounding myself with people that want to push the envelope, want to take some chances. Don't believe in just settling. And again, sometimes it's employees. Friends of mine that are really, really well-off employees because they push within the confines of that role they serve. And they get to check out and go focus on their family, and they have more balanced work-life lives than I do, or work-personal lives than I do. And there's beauty in all of it. You just got to, just what works for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first step is, okay, what do I want? What do I value? Is it time? Is it money? Is it a little bit of both? Is it independence? Is it traveling? What do you really care about? Okay, now what are my options within those like top two priorities? And I'm blessed that I'm focusing on what I love, which is serving. Like I said, I grew up in this business. Ironically, growing up in the restaurant business, I kind of looked down on it, on the industry. I thought it was the Mexican restaurants that I was in, and I looked down. I'm like, I'm not going to sell burritos for a living, and I thought that was below me. To be honest with you, I thought it was below me. Because I know I'm intelligent. I got the grades in school and whatever, and I was like, there are bigger issues that I could use my brain power towards to solve bigger problems, whatever that means. But then life has a way of humbling you, and you go through life, and you take, especially somebody like me who takes all these chances. I've lost so many times that I've been humbled many times. And now my perception of the restaurant industry is, at least how we operate in it, is no, we have this chance to serve. And we actually really do make an impact in people's lives, especially the way that we operate our restaurants. We're really, truly impacting people's lives. And so my fulfillment's like, boxes checked, I'm good, I get it now, I had an experience. I had a car accident a couple of years ago. I was in physical therapy at the doctor's office, and I'm going to leave and give them the files so they can put me on for next week's appointment, whatever. And I thought I heard someone behind me say Modern Rose. And this was almost 2.5 years ago, so it wasn't as established as it is now. Yeah. So I turned to look, and I was like, did you say Modern Rose? And it was a patient talking to one of the nurses. And she goes, yeah. And she looks at me, she looks at my hand, and she goes, are you the owner of the Modern Rose? And I go, I am. And she starts crying, like not bawling, but she was tearing up. She goes, can I hug you? I'm like, sure, of course. So I give her a big hug, and she was like, you have no idea how happy I feel going into the Modern Rose, how welcome I feel, how unjudged I feel. She goes, I don't feel like that anywhere in the world, or at least in South Florida. I think she said something about South Florida. She goes, I don't feel like that anywhere. Yeah. I only feel like that at the Rose. Your team and you and your business and the culture you've created, I go in and I feel seen and heard and respected. And it was very jarring. It was a jarring conversation to hear that, because I don't really go places and feel often, I don't feel disrespected or not heard or seen. I mean, maybe it's the way I carry myself. I don't know what it is, but I don't feel that way often. So it was jarring for me to hear that. And it felt good to know that we've created that safe space for people, but I didn't know that that we were creating that. And I don't know if it was because of the way she looked, she was very, very big, whatever. For whatever reason, she feels and she has been discriminated against. And I was like, well, it's still probably been the most impactful experience in terms of people and interactions that I've had since owning the Modern Rose was that one little thing, and she was crying.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a fundraising round, a small fundraising round for a project we had, and she was like the first investor. She called me, she messaged me, she's like, I want to put money towards this. You know, like we've created that, and then they want to reciprocate. That's what's better than that. You know,
that's amazing. Yeah.
Still, I mean, I don't know. I struggle to perceive an experience that will be more impactful than that, other than if my kids take over one day.
Mm.
Other than that, I don't know if I'm gonna have a more impactful experience.
Yeah.
But I love it, and I'm very fortunate, very blessed. Now I'm looking for ways. You know, the next stage of the Rose as we open more locations is to how do we give back more? How do we give back more meaningfully, so that in ways that actually matter and will make an impact, not just donate money, but how do we do things? And then also strategically, what we're trying to do is become a community space. So we have these cool spaces. Fort Lauderdale, like this, has these awesome little pocketed rooms that we can kind of subdivide. Deerfield has an event space in the back room that fits like 35 people. Hollywood's more of one big open space where we can accommodate larger parties. And not just for catering, but okay, how do we engage? How do we invite the nonprofits that we work with to, here's a free space you can use to host an event, you know, bring awareness to your brand, bring awareness to vets, bring awareness to children in need. You know, we're doing an event with BSO, and I can't say what event it is because it's for at-risk youth girls, but coming up soon, they're going to be doing an event and they're using the Rose, and we're donating the space, we're donating the food. So we're going to give back in meaningful ways, which is, I couldn't be happier about, you know, and it feels good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're part of a community, you know, so as soon as you opened up and established your footprint, you became part of a community somewhere.
Yeah.
And you have to interact with your community more than just transactional, you know, dollars.
Totally.
And I want to walk back a second too, because you were talking about being humbled a little bit and talking about, you know, you work in the Mexican restaurant and you were like, this is beneath me. I don't want to, you know, I'm smart, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to sling burritos. But I think there's probably another awakening or epiphany that you might have had, or maybe haven't quite had yet, it goes to how important this really is. To some, you know, some people on the outside, it's just a restaurant, it's just a cafe, it's just this. But no, you're employing people.
Yeah.
They're relying on you. You are now responsible for a bunch of people. And a story that I always, well, two things, because there was another part that you talked about too, with things being you know, beneath you. So the one is, and this wasn't said directly to me, but a friend of mine who'd worked in the car audio industry for a long time, his first job installing, the first day, when the owner says, here's what we're going to do. This is the biggest lesson you're going to learn in your life. We're going to take out the trash. Doesn't matter who you are or where you're at. You always have to take out the trash. And I was like, you know, there's a point there. And the next one that relates is, there's a car audio company that I represented for a long time, very, very big brand that makes speakers and subwoofers and amplifiers. And during the first Gulf War, the economy was bad, and people were not going out and buying luxuries, and things were very tough. The owner of that company believed that he didn't have employees, he had 300 families that he was responsible for. And as things were getting bad, he called a company meeting and he showed them his bank account, personal bank account, not the company's, his personal bank account. He goes, this is how much money I have personally. After the money runs out from the company, with this money, I can ensure that each one of you has a job at your same rate of pay till this date. And I will do everything I can to make sure that that happens or go beyond that. And that's the way he looked at it. And that was a very honorable man.
That's a leader.
Yeah.
That's a leader.
And a lot of those people that were in that meeting in the 1990s, you know, 1990, 91, they're still with him.
I bet. I'm not surprised.
And he, you know, they're loyal to him. Yeah. They work well for him. They work hard for him. They don't steal from them.
You know, they work for the business.
Yeah.
And he works for the business too. He may be the owner, that's fine, but he also works for the business. And the business works for them, and it's a collaborative, cyclical entity that they all depend on and feed. You know, we all give to and take from the business. Yeah. Everyone that works for it. You know, and I couldn't agree more. That's a leader, and I do. There have been so many times that I didn't take any payroll.
Yeah.
To make sure that we hit all the payroll. Nobody ever took a pay cut. So many times I've cashed out and funded and cashed out my IRA 3 times since taking the hit on it since opening the Rose 3 times. Okay, cool, it's good. I start funding things again, and we have a project that doesn't go south, or this project costs X amount, you know, triple what I thought it was going to cost, and I'm like, well, I still got to hit payroll, so cash out, take my hit, put it in. I've borrowed money personally. I've paid exorbitant amounts of interest rates to borrow money quick because I had to make sure things. I mean, it's not this like shining, perfect example of success. It's the type of success that's been clawed and fought and earned, and still going to claw and fight until who knows how long when. You know. Yeah. I learned last year or 2 years ago maybe. So Subway started in Connecticut. Started in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is not far from where I'm from, maybe 20 minutes. They opened the second one because to like put an air, like fake it till you make it, to show people that it was successful, even though it was losing money. They opened the second one. That's why they did that. Yeah. And then it took off, and they just sold, I think a few years ago, whenever it was, for like $10 billion. Subway, right? And it's the world's biggest franchise in terms of number of units, right? And it started with that ability to say, hey, I'm not going to quit because I'm losing. In fact, I'm going to double down. Yeah. You know, what do you throw it at me now, right? So I love that story because I've done that 10 times over since buying the Modern Rose. And as we become more and more established, you don't need to do that as much, but the risk comes in doing that in the beginning because it's all or nothing. You're like, you see your hand in your hand only, and you're going all in over and over again. And you're like hoping that the cards play out your way. That's tough.
That takes a determination that I can't even fathom. And because another thing about Subway is I heard that was the first one was started with $800, and I think it was an $800 loan from his aunt to start that. Yeah. And I think he made an agreement with whatever the space was, and it was like a month-to-month thing because they didn't know if they were going to do it.
And think about it. You know why it turned into Subway, to Subway, what it is now? Because somebody or a small group of people wouldn't let it die, refused to let it die when it wanted to die over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. When everyone else said it would die, when no one believed in them, they refused to let it die. You know, the Rose, to buy, even though the Rose was losing and it was small and it really wasn't that expensive, I didn't have enough money saved to buy it. I had to borrow $3,000 from one person, and I had from a customer at my bar. I was BSing with him, and he and I had built a good rapport. And I told him I had the opportunity. He's like, "How much do you need?" I told him, and it was not a lot. You know, you can't even buy a new car with this much money. And he's like, "Oh, I'll give it to you." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, no problem." He goes, "I know you're good for it." He goes, "I trust you." And he just wrote me a check. He brought a contract, right? The contract was very simple. It was 5% a year interest. When COVID hit, he's like, "Don't worry about it. Pay me when you can." I waited a year, and I gave it all to him in cash with all the interest in an envelope. And he was like, "How much is in here?" And I go, "All of it." He goes, "I guess it worked." Yeah. I go, "Thanks to you, it worked." Somebody believes in me. And it wasn't family, and it wasn't anybody close to me. In fact, people close, besides my mother and my wife, everyone else close to me is like, "It's never going to work. It's going to fail. Don't come to me when it fails. I won't bail you out." I heard all that bullshit. That's fine. I'm not deterred by that stuff. You know, that actually, you know, it's like, okay, watch me. You know, let's see what that is. It was a stranger, and that's common. You know, I think I've heard it before that strangers will support your business before family and friends will.
You kind of touched again on management of expectations. So, and not being deterred. Because when everybody told you, "Oh, that's going to fail, that concept's not going to work," whatever it is, and you could have been like, "Oh, maybe they're right." Yeah. Just taking all the advice. "Oh, these are people that maybe know better than me." But no, you said, "No, I think there's something here for me to make it better." Yeah. To add some substance, and you weren't deterred. You didn't take it to heart. You didn't base your outcome on everybody else's opinion or how they looked at you or whether they supported you or not. you didn't hold it against them, but you're going to remember, because some people are going to say negative things out of a place of love. They don't want to. They don't want to see bad things happen.
They think it's caring for you and protecting you. And it may be. It's kind of like parenting. One of my managers had a kid last year, had a son, and it felt great to give him like paid time off and paternity leave and a raise while he had his time off. Like, dude, I didn't have that when I had a kid. I think I got like a week off at like a base rate, lower rate of pay. It was like, here's something, I'm doing you a favor. But instead I'm like, no, you're going to get a raise and go take, it ended up being like 5 weeks. I'm like, go take 5 weeks and be with your wife and be with your kid, right? That felt good. Those to me are those marks of success. It's not the amount of money they count. It's like doing things for people that weren't able to be done for me. Even if people had the intentions to, they weren't able to. And he was like, hey, do you have any advice for parenting? And I was like, man, the advice I'll give you is this. Don't listen to people's advice. Be a good parent. Love your child. Everything else is noise, bro. Like, everyone has their own approach, their own style. It's right or wrong for them as long as you're not abusive. You know what I mean? If you're loving them and you're teaching them and you're feeding them and you're giving them a warm home environment, they're gonna be fine, right? You're gonna have to have a little discipline. You're gonna have to teach them right from wrong, like all those things. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And if anyone tells you there's a right way or a wrong way there are wrong ways, but there are many right ways. Okay.
Yeah, there's more than one right answer.
Yes.
There's definitely wrong answers that are clear cut.
That are black and white, yes.
But there's more than one right answer.
Yeah, that's my advice. Don't take advice. Don't listen to me, people. If there's a few core people you trust, fine. I appreciate that you asking me. I'm not a perfect parent either. I'm not a perfect business owner. I'm not a perfect husband, father, son, anything. I'm not perfect anything. But I do think that the best piece of advice is don't take advice. You can ask here and there, but be very selective about what you listen to. Very selective.
And there's something to be said about having faith and confidence in yourself and not always having to ask other people to base your decisions. Hey, what should I do? And then basing your decisions on what other people say. Sometimes that's part of being an adult and part of being responsible. And is making a decision, sticking with it, being responsible and accountable for that decision, no matter the outcome.
Yeah, good or bad.
Yeah, and I like what you said about you can't live with hate in your heart and let that eat you up. But there is something to be said for a little bit of motivation that comes from when people say you can't.
I've been fortunate that how I've been able to lead and grow with the Modern Rose has been mostly through love. It's been kind of the opposite. So I've always been more of like an intense person and intense music and intense everything. So that would be like my normal, I think my default form of fuel would be that. Like what negative is adding fuel to this fire? And I do feel like I'm at the next stage of my life because I'm fueling that fire through love. The motivation's always there. I'm so motivated to just be productive in the world and build for my family and build with my team. And I want my family, I want my team and everyone that believes in us and works with us. I want them to get rich. I want everyone to do well, I think there's enough for everybody. And, but I get to use that really with like surrounded by love. And it's very, again, it's very different than how I envision my life, but it's good. It's at the end of the day, it's really like in a wholesome way, it's good. Yeah. Even when I was in the bar, like the bar scene, I was making money. It was good. It was good in that sense. Financially, I was making money, but I was making money slinging drinks. And you see, bartenders, you see everything. Bartender, you're people's pastor, their therapist, they're nobody, someone they hit on. You're everything and nothing at the same time. Yeah. And you make money, but oftentimes you see the dark. It's like being a cop. You see like most of the times you see the darkest things of life. You see that a lot in the bar business. So, and I drink a little bit, so it's not like a push for sobriety. That's what you're on. Amazing, and I love that. But like when you see people getting inebriated, you see people already coming in drunk, and they're just like drinking their lives away. And you're seeing people cheating, and you're seeing people lying in business deals, and you're hearing and you're knowing that you saw the opposite last week. It was often a dark experience.
Yeah, you're not seeing people at their best.
No,
all the time.
Not often. Not all the time. And sometimes, yes, obviously. great people too. Yeah. But this concept is really able to I'm surrounding myself with 98% 8% positivity. It's crazy. It's really like cool. Like, yeah, it's like, of course I want to open more Modern Roses.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, we're building and selling and creating love. Like, welcome this love. And you walk into any Modern Rose, and it's so cool seeing the diversity of everyone here. You'll see people here, every age, every gender, every religion, every sexual orientation, you name it, they're here. And peacefully enjoying awesome food, awesome drinks, a welcome environment, a cool aesthetic build out. Everyone's here. That's what I'm most proud about. I walk through and I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like, you don't see that anywhere. Unless someone's being paid to, like, because there's like a DEI, inclusiveness, program funding going on that's like forced on you. This is real, authentic diversity. That's cool. That's like, and
it was grassroots. It was from the ground up, and like you said, it wasn't built out of anything that was contrived or had any sort of political or religious or moral agenda. Nothing. It was just purely born out of love to offer, a fantastic product, no matter if it's, like you said, $2 cup of tea or $2,000, plus catering event.
Yeah.
It's give people an experience from the second they walk in, from what they see, what they smell, what they taste, what they hear, and let them leave feeling better. So tell everybody out there how they can find out more information about the Modern Rose.
Well, if you're in South Florida, for now, come to the Modern Rose. We have locations in Fort Lauderdale, Deerfield Beach, and soon to be Hollywood. You can follow us on social media at the Modern Rose, at the Modern Rose FLL, at Modern Rose Hollywood. The website has a lot of great information, www.themodernrose.com. But social media, Google. If you've been and you're seeing this and you haven't left a review, those reviews are so impactful. Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, pick your poison, all of them. Whatever you like, it's helpful. It's more impactful than people might imagine, good or bad. But I welcome it. And if it was a bad experience, tell me. I'd say that's probably the best thing for restaurant owners. If you have a bad experience, reach out to us privately. Let us fix it for you. If you have a good experience, please make it public. If you have a terrible experience and you were treated like shit, tell the world, because that might be indicative of a larger, more systemic issue that no one wants to talk about. But www.themodernrose.com, at the Modern Rose, and keep supporting Warfighter Sanctuary and Veteranette. Let's keep supporting vets. I think most importantly of all.
Because as we say, hiring a veteran is thanking a veteran.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Emilio. And
thank you so much.
We'll see you next time.
That wraps up another episode of Warfighter Sanctuary. Thank you for listening. For more information on Vetranet and the businesses featured in this podcast, be sure to check out our website at vetranet.com. That's www.VictorEchoTangoRomeoEchoNovemberEchoTango.com. Become a Patreon subscriber and get VIP access to the Blue Falcon Show, where we continue the interview with their unfiltered thoughts on a range of topics. Some serious, some trivial, always entertaining. Like and follow our Facebook page to join the community at facebook.com/groups/Vetranet. Intro music provided by Army veteran Sabo of NSA Entertainment. Post-show music provided by Marine veteran Justin Martin of JLM Entertainment. Voiceover provided by Marine veteran Mark Denstead of voicedbymark.com. Until next time, remember, hiring a veteran is thanking a veteran. Thank you for your support.